Hey everybody, it's Safi and Marco Dish Out on Movies, the only movie review show on YouTube to review movies in terms of food. It's just Marco here once again. I am here today to review Better Call Saul Season 4. Now, you guys know my history with this season. This was the first season we started to review Better Call Saul. And I gotta be honest, the whole experience was very disappointing. Because once you start reviewing shows, you get to know the different types of fandoms that there are, and you get to see which fandoms are shitty and which fandoms are good. And unfortunately, the Better Call Saul fandom proved to be pretty shitty. Uh, even when we would review the episodes and say, like, yeah, we like that, but we didn't like that, we get all this negativity. And the worst part was, now this doesn't really have anything to do with reviewing, but I was in a Better Call Saul Facebook group, and yeah, I think it was the biggest one. And I was in that group ever since season 1 of Better Call Saul. And I thought it was a good group. I liked it quite a bit. And then all of a sudden, this guy posted this stupid meme about the Star Wars actors. And it was just this propaganda about saying, like, all these actors in Star Wars are bullied because they're women and minorities. And you guys know that's a bunch of bullshit. Just because we don't like the characters doesn't mean it's racist and sexist to criticize them. But of course, I got banned from the group for saying this meme is stupid. It's not accurate at all. I didn't even act like rude or anything. I was just matter of fact saying this meme is trash. And because of that, I got completely kicked from the group. And so overall, I really don't like the Better Call Saul fandom for the most part. It's not one of my favorite fandoms. I mean, for the most part, unfortunately, Breaking Bad was such a mainstream show. Ow! I just stabbed myself in the toe with like a needle or something in the like a pine needle. Oh shit. Breaking Bad became such a mainstream show that like everyone was talking about that show in my school. Like all the kids in class, I remember like this health class in ninth grade. Everyone was talking about the final season, and even like all kinds of different kids, all kinds. The show broke boundaries in terms of everyone loved it, everyone thought it was great. And unfortunately, with a mainstream type of show or movie like that, it's going to cause a large percentage of that fandom to be fanboys. And unfortunately, too, with this season, it exposes that a big majority, or I mean, not majority, a big section of the Better Call Saul fandom are fanboys of Breaking Bad. That's all they are. And so I just saw this person yesterday night who they did tier lists of all the season's episodes, and they put, like, for season 1, they put episode 2 as the greatest episode of the season. Why? Because it has Tuco in it. And it's like a Breaking Bad episode. And then for season 2, they said episode 4 was the best episode of the season. Why? Because Tuco's in it. Breaking Bad. Fanboyism. And with season 4, they're starting to cross over into the Breaking Bad world. That's why, all of a sudden, magically, out of nowhere, everyone suddenly loves Better Call Saul in season 4. Oh my god, Better Call Saul is the greatest show of all time. Why? Because Breaking Bad fan service and fanboys. That's why. This season half of it is Breaking Bad shitty fan service that nobody wanted or asked for, and half of it is Jimmy being a beta, to say the least. He's a beta this season, while Kim is like this strong, powerful lawyer who can do anything. And as he says, he is actually correct. Near the end of the season, he gives this speech, and he says, "You like to roll around in the dirt with me, and then you like to go back up on your level." And it's true. It's like, in seasons 1 and 2, and kind of 3, she was a great character where she, even though she was going to stay on her side of the fence and do good things and stay true to the law and be a great lawyer, at the same time, she let Jimmy do what he wanted to do. She was fine with it. In fact, she encouraged him to basically follow up and make sure all the loose ends are closed and that there are no loose ends in the end. And she was such a great character. And then in season 4, there's this stupid storyline where all of a sudden, after that car crash, she has fallen out of love with the law. And she doesn't like being a lawyer anymore. Wah, wah, wah. And she doesn't like Jimmy, and it's such this weird thing where it's like she doesn't like him, but then she wants to do the things that he does all the time, whenever it suits her needs, because that's another thing that he talks about is that she says she only wants to do bad things for good, and then he's like, we just traveled like 400 miles to do this stupid thing for your bank, Mesa Verde. How is that doing things for good? How is that using powers for good? And then she's just like, whatever. So she's bullshitting. And her arc is just so strange, and it's so weird because you can tell that the writers, they love her character to a fault. There comes a point where if you love your character too much, nothing bad will happen to them, or they'll be so pure and perfect that they'll start to be better than everyone else, and everyone else's stories will suffer because of their story. And for instance, what would be a good example of that? What would be a good example of that? I'm sorry. I just, there's so many different, things that are coming into my head right now, and I'm trying to think of, which one would be the best for this particular instance. Well, okay. The Swede on Hell on Wheels. Okay, I've talked a lot about Hell on Wheels with the show. Or actually, no, not the Swede. Ava. Oh, God. Ugh. Okay, so Hell on Wheels was a great show. In fact, I would say right now that I would overall state that Hell on Wheels was a better show than Better Call Saul. Unfortunately, it had way more of a consistently good show going on. There was a lot better episodes. Just overall, I do think Hell on Wheels was way better. Sadly. Because seasons 1 to 3 of Better Call Saul were better than all of Hell on Wheels combined. So, but there was this character in the first season named Ava, and she was a very interesting character because she was this white girl who got kidnapped and enslaved by Native American Indians, and they tattooed her chin. And she had this very distinctive look where she had these little lines on her chin. She was a very interesting character. And in the first season, she's this prostitute, and, you can have sex with her for $1. And so this guy named Elam, played by Common, he falls in love with her, and Then there's this fat Irish drunken guy, and he's in love with her, and so there's kind of this love triangle. And in season 2, she marries the fat Irish guy for no reason. And then at the end of the season, he kills himself and because he's sad, and that was very sad. And then in the third season, she's kind of with him, and it's like this weird thing. But then he gets taken by a bear. We won't talk about the bear. Uh, but her story in season 4, it sort of makes you wonder why she's still around. It's almost like she should have been killed off a lot earlier. Like she's never killed off, but she should have been killed off for sure. And it was like the writers loved her character so much that they were never going to kill her or have anything bad happen to her, except for a little abuse in seasons 1 and 2. And then in season 4, she has this strange story where she opens up her own whorehouse, and she's the leader of it, and she does some bad things, some corrupt things here and there. She gets involved with another Irish guy who, he's a bad guy, and he starts to fall in love with her, and so she attracts a lot of evil Irish guys for some reason. And then in season 5, she's still around, and she's just still alive and well and just having a blast. And I don't even think she has like any story in season 5 at all, except for the fact that she's there so that the characters can say, "Oh, hi, Ava," and then Ava can say, "Oh, hi, colonoscopy," and hi, other people, characters that were trash too. And then at the end of the series, there's this thing where it's so, because God, it's so stupid, where that evil Irish guy, he tries to give her money so that they can run off together into the sunset, and she says no. And so then she takes the money and rides off into the sunset herself, and she's just off to do whatever she wants. Never had to really struggle throughout the rest of the series. Never really had to have any conflict or good story. She just got this like free ride where like I kind of envy her. Like, you just have to think, how fun would that be to be like on a show where all you do is just stand around like a wallpaper, and then you just get to survive the whole series because the writers are too ballless to kill you off or do anything interesting with your character. Like, that's her character. And that's what happens with Kim in this season. The writers are so in love with Kim that they'll just they want to do too much. Like, there's all these different hands dipping into the pot, dipping their hands into this. Just imagine you have like 8 people putting their hands inside of a pot of soup and like adding their own germs into the soup. Like, you don't want to eat that soup anymore, do you? Well, that's what happens this season. Like, there's this part where she's staring inside of a model, and they play this like dark music, and it's like, God, this is weird. It's just weird. It's so weird. It's not even. It's like, how do you... That's why, like, I was so confused and just, like, bewildered when I reviewed this season. I was like, what is going on here with this character that was so fantastic in seasons 1, 2, and 3? What is going on? We have this long, like, 20-minute sequence where she's in a courtroom, and the judge is like, "Kim, if you're in my courtroom again, I will put you to work. So do not be in my courtroom again." And then she sits there again. And it's like, just, oh God, what is this story? Oh, it's so bad. It's so bad, and it's so dumb and dull. Well, there's another contradiction that I'd love to talk about where, for starters, she has her first big moment of the season is she has a breakdown. She has a temper tantrum towards Howard. Everyone hates Howard at this point. Like, they're not putting up with Howard's bullshit anymore. Like in the first 3 seasons, it was like, okay, maybe this guy'll he'll be revealed to be a very good person at one point. But for now, fuck him. And to be honest, like, instead of saying fuck Chuck, I think it's fuck Howard. Like, I'm so glad that he got killed off after rewatching season 3. Like, seriously, I despise Howard, his character at this point. He barely ever does anything redeemable again. The only reason why you even like him in season 6 is because they give him easy sympathy points that any character in the history of television could get with like a scene or two in an episode. So, Howard in this season, he tells Jimmy that he thinks Chuck committed suicide. He's going to give him this letter that Chuck wrote that's probably another fuck you to Jimmy because Chuck was a piece of shit for the most part. And he's going to get $5,000 from Chuck, who, is going to make millions and millions and millions because he's this big famous lawyer. So Kim has a breakdown and she tells Howard, like, why are you doing this to Jimmy? Jimmy doesn't deserve this. You're helping Chuck say fuck you to Jimmy from beyond the grave. You're a terrible person. Don't do that, please. He does not need that right now. And so she takes the letter anyway. And she gives it to Jimmy in episode like 3 or 4. I don't know. They're all so bad and interchangeable. And Jimmy reads it with this very robotic, monotone voice. And she looks disturbed and she gets so upset by his monotone, careless reading that she goes into the bedroom and has another tantrum. And so apparently the writers thought that by making Kim throw a bunch of temper tantrums and act like she's on her period all the time, she's now a stronger character. And I would disagree. I would say that they make her a weaker character and they make her into like a stereotype that like, speaking of like feminism, like, if I were a feminist, which I'm not, I would say, you're kind of making her look weak and pathetic this whole season. Making her like a pathetic little petite flower. And that's what they do. And it's like, so on one hand, she doesn't like that Howard is doing that to Jimmy and giving him all this bad stuff to think about. On the other hand, she's mad at Jimmy for not feeling more sorry that Chuck is dead. So it's like, what is it? Like, what's the problem? Like, why is these conflicting viewpoints from her? It's so weird and strange. It doesn't make sense. It's never explained. It's never fully fleshed out. All these ideas are just thrown, mixed together in a blender, and you're expected to like it because it's Better Call Saul and it's all perfect because no Better Call Saul could ever be bad. So let's just go over the first episode. The first episode was trash. It was a C-, and that's another thing, is that this season has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 episodes that are C's and D's, and another episode that's an F-. And then there's only 2 B's and only 1 A/D. So yeah, it's a pretty bad season overall. You start off the first episode boring, hardly anything happens. And as I said before, in season 3 they started this plot structure where you'd have 5 episodes where nothing happens, and it's all for the benefit of the 6th episode where something happens, and that's the whole episode. it's a terrible plot structure, and they keep on relying on that more and more as the series goes along. But I will say, in this first episode, Jimmy, he's another character where he has a weird story this season. Like, on one hand, he's visibly upset that Chuck is dead, but he's not really going to show that. He's not going to talk about it at all because of what Chuck did. Uh, how he was so evil near the end of his life. And so Jimmy kind of buries it, and he has this weird mood swing thing where he goes from being happy to mad to a sad. He has like a mood swinging issue, and he does this thing where he accepts a job interview, and then he says no thanks, and then he does something else too. And you think, like, is something going on with it? Is he going to do something really crazy this season? Is he going to go full psycho this season? Is this going to be a dark season or what? No, it's not. He's just going to turn into the character of Kim's inferior, drunken, jealous boyfriend who is a loser, and he's always down, and he can't do anything that Kim does, and he should be on his hands and knees worshiping Kim, not in the sexy way, but in like the pathetic bitch way that Jimmy is like this season. But in the first episode, he does have this amazing line. I mean, it is probably, I will say that I love some of Jimmy's lines this season because he's so short and to the point. And he's so, like, hard and gritty. Like, you don't want to... He's going to be blunt with you this season. And the first episode, Howard's like, Jimmy, I think it was my fault. The insurance. Chuck killed himself. Oh, my God. And Jimmy's sitting there, and he doesn't give a fuck. And he's like, well, Howard, I guess that's your cross to bear. And they just sit there speechless, and it is like, I was ready to get up and cheer like, yeah, Jimmy, let's go, Jimmy. And he gets up and he feeds the fish, and he's like, does anyone want coffee in here? And it's like, yeah, that's the badass Jimmy that I know and love. Like, yeah. And that was amazing. I love that part, actually. That was so good. And it starts a series of moments where Jimmy will say something, and then Kim will sit there, and her face will retract backwards, and she'll be like, ooh, I don't understand that. Or like, ooh. And she just gets so upset by anything that Jimmy says this season. And it's amazing, because now that the heartbreak is over, now that I don't have any expectations of that season anymore, or Better Call Saul in general, I can kind of laugh at things, and so I actually think of it as, like, funny. Like, there's another episode this season where Jimmy is saying, okay, Kim, I got a plan here. Let's get the cop to look drunk in court. Let's throw some alcohol on him. Let's say some stuff to piss him off. And let's have him have a breakdown in the middle of the courtroom. And Kim just sits there and she doesn't say anything for like an entire minute. And it is the funniest thing I've ever seen. Like, it is just this amazing comedic timing where comedic delivery where he says something just so insane and crazy, and she just sits there like, what the fuck? But that's another contradiction, though, because she offers things that are just as bad, like they're just as crazy. And then, of course, in the finale, he says, how about if we light the court on fire and then I go into the judge's chambers and save her? And she's just like, she, she's completely in shock and doesn't know what to say. It reminds me a lot of The Office, where Michael will say something really insane and everyone will just be like, they'll just ignore it. They'll just like stand there in silence. So I love that part. And obviously, most of this season is slow and bad. There's hardly anything worthwhile to say about them. And so a lot of these notes are just kind of overall general thoughts about the season. Yes, I'm just looking over these notes. And you know what? Let's talk about the letter, because the letter is one of the biggest issues of the whole series. It is and people got mad too. They got so mad and upset that I criticized this letter plot point, and they said, like, it's such a small thing, like, why is it such a problem? It's just a fucking letter. And it's like, no, it's a very important piece of the season, and I could tell from the episode that it was introduced that it would be an important plot device in the season. And so it is a very important thing that they got wrong in this season. Oh yeah, and I did really like the idea of Mike going to all these different Madrigal locations to check on the security. And I thought, maybe that'll go somewhere interesting. But, oh shit, sorry. I have this other phone turned on airplane mode so I can just read the notes, but for some reason I'll still get these irritating notifications. But that first thing where he goes to that Madrigal location, and he signs the birthday card, and he debates about the boxing and all that stuff. That was pretty good, and I thought that was going to go somewhere interesting, because maybe we could get to see more Lydia. And let's just say, I just gotta say this, like, I don't know if I said it last video, but the Breaking Bad Better Call Saul universe is, like, stacked with babes. Like, just every single, like, there's just so many babes in the Breaking Bad Better Call Saul universe that it's insane. It is insane how, like, this is supposed to be this realistic show, and like, every single woman in the whole universe is like a straight up babe. And which one was I talking about just then? Oh shit, oh yeah, Lydia. How could I forget Lydia? Like, oh my god, Lydia is the greatest. Like, nobody can ever match Lydia, I don't think. Like, spoiler alert, because I'm going to be doing a video about the babes of the Breaking Bad Better Call Saul universe. And Lydia's character, like, she's just, like, straight up, like, on fire. Like, it's just, everything about her is, like, perfect. You can't blame Todd for being obsessed with Lydia in Breaking Bad. And I thought, maybe this is going to flesh out the Madrigal part of the series more, of the universe, I mean. And maybe there will be a really interesting story at these different Madrigals about, like, kind of like in the Fallout games, where you go to the different vaults and you find out the history of each vault and how each one of them went wrong. And I thought, like, this is going to be a pretty interesting story. It's not going to get too complicated. Oh, wait. The story at one point all of a sudden becomes Mike gets hired to hire and watch over these workers building Walter White's meth lab, of course, so that we can have more Breaking Bad BS, fan service. And of course, that's why this season is so amazing, is because Breaking Bad, my meth lab, Walter White. And I know you're saying, well, it's connected to Breaking Bad. Well, the thing is that this season, I mean, this series, it's always been its own thing for the most part. Like, that's what's so good about it. Like, if you look at you want to make another comparison, The Lone Gunman is such a different show than The X-Files. And that's why it's so good, is because it doesn't feel like The X-Files. It feels like its own thing. It's not just riding off of the coattails of the X-Files. It's doing its own thing. And all of a sudden in this season 4, they kind of throw that out the window. And they say, no, this is actually just Breaking Bad light. It's Breaking Bad Jr., as if Flynn, a.k.a. Walter Jr., as if he wasn't already Breaking Bad Jr. No, Better Call Saul is Breaking Bad Jr. at this point. And so then Mike's story is just all about watching over people building the meth lab. And of course, we all know what happens with that. And I can't wait to talk about that. So where was I? Okay, I was talking about Madrigal, Lydia. Now, what's the next thing? Let's talk about Gus. I was really liking Gus in Better Call Saul Season 3. I didn't mention it, but I kind of thought that he was better in Better Call Saul Season 3 than in a lot of Breaking Bad. He was a very interesting and powerful character, yet he had a lot of humanity to him, and he was very likable. And in this season, he turns it straight into Darth Vader. He is Darth Vader light. He's a skinny Darth Vader, skinny, short Darth Vader. So he finds out what Nacho did, and there's this part where he literally leaps out of the darkness like a slasher villain, and he kills another guy working with Nacho, and then he says, "Nacho, I know what you did. You are mine." And, he probably made him give him a BJ after that. Who knows? Because the episode was called Breathe. And so, I don't know, maybe there was something that happened after that. Because, we all know that Gus this season, he's not pulling any punches. He's gonna fuck shit up more than he needs to. And that's where I have a problem with Gus this season, is that he's not likable anymore after season 3. Like, there comes a point where he's just so evil. Like, if anything, he's even more evil in Better Call Saul than he ever was in Breaking Bad. And I kind of like that a little bit, because there's a lot of villains nowadays, and people like them too much, and so at least they're sticking to him being a true villain. They're not saying, oh yeah, he has a lot of heart, he kills people, he kills innocent women and children, but he has a lot of heart. They're doing that with Lalo, though, so it's kind of confusing. But anyways, Gus he's so over the top that you wonder, like, why he chooses to do things. Like, he makes these very harsh, brass, is it brass or brash? He makes these very harsh decisions that seem just like complete overreactions to things, and he doesn't really have any humanity at all this season. And the only part of the story of his this season that I liked is he goes to visit Hector, or no, he sees footage of Hector, and he pays for this top doctor to help Hector rehab, and he sees that Hector is getting better, and he says, okay, that's enough of that, let's just shove him in a nursing home now. And I thought, like, that was amazing, because he saw that Hector was getting better, and he decided to say, instead of that, let's just have him live this very miserable, experience where it's like he's not even living. And that's the other thing, like, why is he punishing Nacho so much when Nacho helped him make Hector suffer? I mean, he's really suffering this season. Nacho's suffering too, though. And Nacho's story this season sucks. From now on, it's just this spinning the wheels story where he does things for Gus, he risks his life, he feels sad, he visits his dad. It's a formula. The only thing I liked was when they set up like a fake attack on him and they shot him for real, and they kind of like set up a scene, manipulated a scene to make it look like he was attacked. I thought that was pretty cool. I thought that was an interesting story. But then at a certain point, Nacho literally drops off this season and just doesn't do anything. And it's like, why did he even need to be in this season, honestly? Like, his character, all that he does is offer some scenes of Breaking Bad fan service, where he's fighting with the twins and him are doing a shootout. There's some other stuff. Like, he doesn't even really need to be there. Oh yeah, and of course he visits with Lalo a little bit, and he drives Lalo around. Yeah. So, yeah, not a fan of Nacho's story this season. Not a fan of Gus's story this season. Let's move forward. Yeah, Breaking Bad fan service. Yep. Oh yeah, we didn't talk about the letter yet. The letter is the biggest missed opportunity of the season. You'd think that if I were Chuck and I really hated Jimmy, in that letter I would destroy Jimmy. And not only that, I would make it seem like I actually liked him at a certain point, and then afterwards I just hated him to the point of where, like, I would just, make it kind of seem like this switch, this change happened, and I would really destroy him by telling him about the thing with his mom, and how his mom called for him. Like, that would have destroyed Jimmy, and that's what I would have done if I were Chuck. Or at least I would have been honest and said the truth, and maybe I would have, told him that I did like him and that I was upset about things, and but instead of any of that, Chuck tells Jimmy nothing. He tells him a bunch of generic bullshit. I was very proud when you were in the mailroom. I was very happy. You can do good. Wink, wink. It was very generic, almost like a robot wrote it, almost like someone who wasn't even related to Jimmy wrote the letter. Howard. And so we have this. Let's follow the story progression. Howard tells Kim that there's a letter from Chuck. Howard has the letter. Howard is going to give the letter to Kim, not to Jimmy. Kim says, "Don't do that. Don't lay more stuff on Jimmy. Wah, wah, wah." Howard gives Kim the letter anyway. Kim gives the letter to Jimmy. Jimmy opens it up, and he says, "There's no date on here." It's not dated. And then he reads the letter. The letter sounds like it was written by someone who has no affiliation to Jimmy. It sounds like it was written as a fake letter to hide the real letter. Maybe the real letter is being hidden by Howard somewhere. And then, and he reads the letter, of course, and then at the end of the season, he uses the letter to his benefit. But you guys see the big problem with this letter is that Kim tells Howard about not making Jimmy more upset. And Howard, he gives Kim this letter, and it has no date on it. And you'd think that Chuck, being this ultra perfectionist, this complete narcissistic, full of himself guy, he's gonna date the letter. I'm sorry, but no matter what, no matter how impersonal the letter is, he would have dated that letter. And so that was a giveaway to me that that letter was not real, that letter, that Howard probably wrote that letter just like he wrote Chuck's obituary, and he gave Kim the fake letter after, realizing, maybe I should just do the fake one so that Jimmy doesn't get even more upset. Maybe, right? Well, no, they treat that like it's the real letter, and the whole sad thing is that the letter is so impersonal, wah, wah, wah. I totally don't believe it. And I did not like how at the end he uses the letter to his benefit, and then he kind of doesn't use the letter. It's just so pointless, ultimately. So yeah, I did not like the whole letter thing. And also, they have a checklist. Another issue with this season is that it feels like instead of being at the pace that they were at in seasons 1 through 3, all of a sudden they want to really rush through things so that they can end the series fast. So they have a checklist. The meth lab is built. Check. Jimmy changes his name to Saul. Check. Jimmy and Kim don't have a business together ever and won't ever have one. Check. Jimmy gets the one-use cell phone business going. Check. Post-Breaking Bad scene of him calling the disappearer. Check. And it's like once you completely check all the boxes on that checklist, obviously you end the show because there's nothing else to do anymore after that except for tell original story, which is, very hard, very tough. And another issue this season is they had a huge gaping hole. They had a huge gaping hole in terms of, in seasons 1 through 3, Jimmy and Chuck, their scenes together were very, very integral to the show. And you had these two powerhouse actors talking to each other in rooms, and they were phenomenal scenes, all of them. And they were so entertaining and so dramatic, yet funny sometimes and dark other times. But the writers, they had a gaping hole where those scenes were. And what did they fill those scenes up with? Jimmy and Kim. And the problem with that is they don't have the same gravitas together that him and Chuck had. Because Chuck was completely anti-Jimmy. Kim, she is kind of on Jimmy's side because she loves him. And so it's kind of a different thing. But then there's times where they make Kim so anti-Jimmy on purpose because they need someone to go against Jimmy. And instead of creating a new character, they decide to force that onto Kim's character. And so I really don't like that. And then, of course, they also had a hole where Jimmy is... That was a piece of tree bark. Sorry. Jimmy is not doing lawyer stuff in this season. And so what do they have? They have Kim doing lawyer stuff. Very, very mediocre scenes where she's like doing this pro bono work, and it's very boring and bland. And yeah, there's the outburst part. Let's see. And of course, he's treated like an idiot this season. a lot of times where he makes very stupid decisions. Of course, there's a whole episode called Something Stupid because he's making stupid decisions that episode, and he gets himself in a stupid predicament. But season 4, I gotta say, it had the most potential out of all the seasons. He can literally do anything he wants as long as he's also adhering to these guidelines that they want him to fill, and the stuff they give him to do is weak sauce. It's not consistent with the character and story from seasons 1 through 3. In particular, his money situation. He is shown to be able to make money in any situation necessary. He can sell anything. Yet in season 3, he struggled just to make month's rent for the office. Like, remember that amazing scene where he was just so broken down by his life that he's sitting in this restaurant and he's staring down this asshole rich guy, and he's saying, let's give that guy a fake credit card, and they had this slow zoom in on him, and you could tell that character was struggling, and he was not just able to magically sell 1,000 cell phones to criminals and then just do whatever he wanted, and also, like, he had to struggle to make money. In season 4, he can literally do anything he wants. Even in a flashback for season 4, I hated this flashback as well. It's all about Kim and how good she is versus how stupid Jimmy is. All he cares about is the Oscars. All she cares about is important lawyer stuff. That's the whole flashback. And then she looks up to Chuck like an idol. And we kind of get the hint that Jimmy became a lawyer to impress Kim. And that they show him going into the law library. And it's like, oh, he went in there to impress Kim. And it's like, God, this is so insulting to the character. Ugh. But in hindsight, you can see what they're trying to do. I don't think they were totally trying to make her character the OG character. I mean, not OG, OP character, where she's the greatest and Jimmy is the worst. It was kind of like they wanted to do a Better Call Kim, and so they wanted to do that with her this season and make it all about her story and how she's falling out of love with the law. It's just a bad story. Completely. And I think I was right and wrong about a few things. The main issue being how they're rushing to an end. They do a really queer 1-year time jump which feels unearned and doesn't fit with the precedents this universe has set. The story is always moving and nothing stops for a time jump. A lot happens in a year in the Better Call Saul Breaking Bad universe. And of course, they're too in love with Kim, which is another big issue. But let's talk about Werner and Mike and Kai and the meth lab. You know, the greatest stuff in history, I guess. There is this whole story where it's kind of like tricking you with these red herrings, where these German guys come to build the meth lab, and there's this guy named Kai, and he's kind of a troublemaker, and you think, oh, he's going to be the issue in this situation, and he's going to have to get killed. And then, oh no, it's not him, it's Werner, the head of the operation. He's the problem in the operation, and he's the one who has to get killed. The quiet, nice guy who you'd never suspect would cause any trouble for the operation. That's the story here. That's the amazing, phenomenal, masterpiece story that made all the fanboys love Better Call Saul, more than they did the first 3 seasons because they were boring. And that's what you got to realize is that this season it hardly does anything different in terms of pacing and story than seasons 1 through 3. The only difference is they add in Breaking Bad stuff. And so that's really at the key of why the fanboys like this season. And of course, Mike has this weird story where he has an outburst at this group meeting, and there's this hilarious part. It's probably one of the funniest parts of the whole series, where you have this guy in his 70s, and he gets a phone call from Karen, his daughter-in-law, whatever, and then he just completely hangs up on her, and it's such a it's such a funny scene watching this 70-year-old do the cliche "I'm not responding to your phone call" scene, and he does it in such a childish way. He's just yeah, and he hangs up on her. That was just so dumb. And the whole story with the Germans, it just feels like there's nothing there. There's nothing there of substance to the story. You also have the fact that Mike is so stupid that he doesn't see Werner trying to escape at any point. Just the fact that he went to all these madrigals. He's an expert on security, but he's not able to figure out that Werner is going to escape and what he's going to do, and he couldn't properly secure the location that they're staying in. It's just totally unbelievable to me. I mean, you know what I could have seen happening? I thought that all the workers were going to revolt to help Werner go see his wife, and maybe all of them going up against Mike by himself. Maybe then I could have seen Werner escaping. But the fact that he just escapes all by himself and it's this surprise thing, and then the whole last episode. Let's talk about the last episode. Well, let's just say this. I would give most of the episodes this season, C's and D's. I would give Pinata an F-, because that, of course, is the episode where Kim breaks Jimmy's heart in more ways than one. And that episode, it was very hard to watch for me. It was so negative and so evil, and I did not like that episode. And of course, I did not also mention that a lot of episodes this season were written by writers who had never written an episode of television before, which is another reason why there's a drop in quality. And then I would give Kushada a B+. I really loved the whole thing with Huel, where they figure out how to get him out of going to jail. That was fantastic. I mean, just the whole sequence with him writing letters, and that was so good. And it felt a lot more like seasons 1, 2, and 3, where you have Jimmy putting his smarts to use, mixed to Kim putting her smarts to use, working together to get Huel out of this problem. That was a very good episode. I would give Wiedersehen, I would give that a B+ too, even though I have problems with it. The finale is tricky because I would give the story with Jimmy, I would give that whole story an A-. I really thought that was good in general, and if the rest of the season was as good as that, then I would give all the season episodes A+. The whole thing with him serving on this advisory board, and then they had the one girl who they were not going to give a scholarship because she made a mistake one time, and so they're always going to look at her for that one mistake. And unfortunately, though, that whole arc is a complete copy of season 1, where Jimmy thought that Chuck was proud of him being a lawyer, when really he finds out that Chuck is going against him, he's working against him, and Chuck is always going to look at him for his mistakes, like the Chicago sunroof thing. And so we really kind of see a repeat of that episode where he looks at this young girl being rejected by HHM, and she sees him and her, and then he of course gives her this amazing motivational speech. And it's to me, I thought that was kind of a missed opportunity. It was another missed opportunity where I would actually have liked to have seen a storyline of him trying to mentor her into becoming a lawyer. Because you could imagine all the places that could go. She's not going to say no to anything that he does. And it could end up being really dark. And so I really think that was another missed opportunity. You know, it could have been like Walter and Jesse with them. Like, that's how much of a missed opportunity it was, if you think about it. So you have all that. I really like that. Still, it was a lot better than anything else going on the rest of the season. But then you have Mike and Lalo. And Lalo comes in. You really don't know what he's going to do. He's just this very obscure character who it seems like they don't have any idea of what they want to do with him yet. Like he's there and then he's not there. He's nice and then he's not nice. It's really I don't know what they were going for. And in the finale, Mike spends an hour. He spends the whole episode tracking Werner down. And he has this discussion with Gus where he says, you know, let's just have him get back to work. It would be stupid to kill Werner, the head of the operation, and then, like, it would just cripple the whole operation. And Gus is like, yeah, I agree. And then he gets to Werner, and all of a sudden, Gus has changed his mind, where it's like, oh no, you have to kill him, or else. And it's kind of like sickening. It's very negative and sickening because it's a great big overreaction. It doesn't make any sense. I will say, I do think it makes more sense in hindsight because if Lalo had gone to Germany and he found Werner, then Werner would have told him everything. Like, that's what's sad, is that Werner, he was not the right person to hire. Like, they didn't hire that first guy, that guy who helped build the Mexican tunnel through the border. But that first guy, in building that tunnel under the border, that was a very hush-hush, secretive, confidential thing. You'd think that they would look at that and say, yeah, he's probably the better option to hire because he's more secretive, he's more professional. Like, if you had the choice to hire, like, one of the two, why would you pick the nice German guy? Oh, he's very nice and, you know, he's quote-unquote smart, he knows what he's doing. But then you have this other guy, and he's secretive, he's professional, he's wearing a suit, and he doesn't even need to go to the bathroom. Like, he is just so on another level in comparison to Werner, where you have to think, like, this is a really convenient plot choice that Gus chose to hire Werner and the German crew. It just, I don't know, it seemed kind of stupid. Like, you'd also think that maybe there could be, like, a test where, like, both of them are given, like, a Slugworth type of piece of information, and then if they pass the test, they would get hired. Like, that's what I would probably do if I were in Gus's situation. So that's another thing where I would say that they dropped the ball with that Breaking Bad fan service story. And then you have Lalo, who's literally just following them, and that's his story in the final episode, is he's just following them around. Very, very fake, contrived, forced, shoved in drama just for the sake of drama. And then, of course, you have the end of Mike's story in season 4 is he has to kill Werner, and it is an extremely hard scene to watch because he is being forced to kill an innocent person with a wife and probably someone who could have had children at some point, and it's a very, very hard scene to watch. And Mike kills him, and he kills him without even trying to get him out of the situation. And to me, it completely almost destroyed Mike's character, that he would do something as evil as that. It's something like, it's very dark, and it's very, very forced, in my opinion. It's forced as well. It's literally forced by the character of Gus Fring, forcing him to kill Werner. And finally, the end of the whole season is Jimmy giving the speech, and it was pretty good. I liked that quite a bit. And then he changes his name to Saul Goodman, and the final. This is how you know it has become Better Call Kim instead of Better Call Saul. Instead of showing the main character at the end of the season, what do we get to see? We get to see Jimmy saying, "It's all good, man." And then Kim, we always see is the shot of Kim, and she does the thing where she retracts her head backward and makes a derpy face, like she doesn't understand what's going on. That's the ending of season 4. Like, that's how you know that this series is becoming less about Jimmy and more about their love for Kim. Overall, I would say this season was a disaster. There is some good stuff sprinkled throughout that I'm able to see it more clearly now because I don't have the expectations anymore. I don't have the same, like, oh, I'm very excited for Better Call Saul. Like, no, I'm not. I'm really not. Because it's a completely different show than it was when I liked it. I would rate this season. This is completely unlike the first 3 seasons. And so, wait, I'm just going to get a drink of water like Werner did. It's hard to figure out when I should take water breaks during these such long videos. But that was my Werner moment. I would say, in order to make this fully different than the first 3 seasons' food reviews, I have had vegan food before. I try not to eat it because it's terribly unhealthy for you. I had this Amy's vegan burger, and a couple of times, and it has some good things about it, but it's still really gross and very artificial. But it has a lot of great spices that are in it. It's very well spiced, and so you kind of like enjoy it, but kind of don't. And then, of course, you have your sides that you eat. You have, I don't know, probably some French fries, beans, I don't know, corn, maybe. And you have this vegan burger. But the problem is that when you have a burger meal, you just want to have a fucking hamburger. I mean, you don't want to have a burger made out of cardboard and leaves. So that is the core of the problem this season, is that it doesn't give you what you want in a Better Call Saul season. It gives you something so completely different that it's hard to like it at all. It feels so different that it just feels like it's become a different thing. And so you have to completely change your expectations and you know change them so that you can start to quote unquote like the show more, I guess, because that's something you got to do nowadays is adjust your expectations so that you're not too disappointed or you're not too in love with something where you overrate it. So that's what I would give Better Call Saul season 4. I don't like it at all. It's bad. I gotta say too, I would probably never watch this season again. I said that when I reviewed the show back when it came out, but I'm being truthful. Like, the only reason I rewatched it was to review the season. I might watch a couple of the episodes near the end, though, again. Like, I might watch the Kushada one again, of course. I might watch the finale again for some of the stuff in that. But other than that, no thanks. It's pretty bad. And it's not the Better Call Saul show that I know and love. So please like this video, comment, tell me what you thought about this shitty season of Better Call Saul. And then please subscribe to this channel if you'd like to see more Better Call Saul reviews. Goodbye, everybody. See you soon.